Yeah, we're back on the SportsMax zone and we're talking track and field at the moment, and we are dissecting some comments put forward by Michael Johnson, four-time Olympic champion and former world record holder over 200 and 400 meters. Things he feels that can boost the sport and increase the popularity of track and field. Sports marketing consultant Carol Beckford and Jamaica's technical director to our World Championship and Olympic teams, Maurice Wilson, with us on this discussion. And Maurice recognized that in the outlay from Michael Johnson, he is not troubling too much a lot of what remains with the World Championships and Olympics, the major meets and so on, maybe even the Diamond League. But he's proposing like a pro series in the calendar year that can help to inject some well-needed interest in the sport to make it more attractive. From a calendar perspective, though, how busy do you think the international program is to allow for fitting in different events, as he's suggesting?
I personally believe that there are serious gaps in the calendar in terms of the schedule. If you were to look at when most of these major meets are held, you can almost block a 2-month period between July and August. Occasionally, you may have a meet, depending on where it is held, maybe the last part of August going into the first week of September. So I think that there's more than enough time in terms of the meets to be held. I think where we have a problem, and this can be solved, he also mentioned that, is in terms of the incentives, because we're not getting our best athletes, especially in the shorter distances, to compete regularly against each other. If you can recall a couple of years ago when we had maybe 8 young men running below sub-10 seconds, I cannot recall at any time during that period for that year that any of those athletes raced each other 5 times for the year. And so the competition is what is going to drive the interest of the audience, and with the interest of the audience then comes TV, and then comes other incentives. So I think it is important that I don't think it's an issue in terms of the gaps, because I think that there are gaps, within the calendar period for meets to be held.
Yeah, Carol, when it comes to the Olympic Games, track and field ranks very highly as in the viewership numbers at the Olympic Games. So it is among the top 3 of the probably 30 sports that are contested at the Olympic Games. Why then, as an individual sport by itself, is track and field struggling globally?
It falls flat thereafter. And I mean,
But why?
Because it doesn't have the kind of competition. I know some years ago, Maurice indicated, they had Tyson Gay, Asaf and Usain were supposed to run 7 of the 14. After the first 3, I think Gay got injured.
Yes.
And then it went. But first of all, you have to think about, let's use Jamaica. No matter what Casey and Calabar play against each other, table tennis, football, basketball, there's a fight. Yeah. You have to develop something like that. You have to develop a rivalry. And then after that, now you start putting them into competitions and time. That July-August gap that Maurice speaks about actually is probably the best time, because the NBA would have been finished, baseball would not have started.
Super Bowl is in February.
Right, so, but the NFL starts in September. So you'd really have a great summer in terms of TV time. And there's pretty much nothing to watch except repeats. Even the television stations repeat their usual series. So it's actually a great time. Yeah. So from that standpoint,
even football fans, the top leagues in Europe usually end in May. And restart mid-August or late August.
What that does, though, it gives people like Maurice problems, because they will have to adjust the training schedule of their athletes. But I'm thinking, if you put down money, put down competition, and give them a place to showcase their talent, athletes will compete.
But that's the elephant in the room, right, in terms of the money, in terms of the compensation for these athletes, because to be fair, especially in a World Championship year or in an Olympic year, they take these meets as just training looking ahead to the big ticket events. But if there is proper investment in these pro meets that Michael Johnson is speaking of, more athletes will turn up.
Oh, absolutely. And we need to put down the value of track and field. We need to state, why is it that the NFL can get 1.5 billion in broadcast rights and then sell it back for something equivalent of 6? Because NBC buys some, CBS, whatever. And I am saying, let's put it on the table. I am saying to World Athletics, get a marketing 2 or 3 people to put a package together and then create that thing out. You can start it. So Olympics is next year. Start it the summer of 2025.
But how much of the onus should be placed on the athletes who haven't been able to properly develop their brand? I mean, not everybody is a Usain Bolt with his personality and his records, but athletes should embrace some of the responsibility here, Maurice, for just putting themselves out there.
Well, they cannot do that without proper education. And that is why it is important that they surround themselves with persons who understand the sport. I heard you, Carol, speaking to about World Athletics getting involved, but I think we could start here. We have someone like Carol Beckford who is underutilized in Jamaica. She has so much knowledge, so much experience, and she's not being utilized. She spoke about the rivalry between a Kingston College, a Calabar, a Jamaica College. Let me just use a comparison. We will never have this at this point in relation to tertiary institutions, because the level of competition is not there. So competition drives the sort of rivalry that brings the interest from TV and so on and sponsorship. And so it is critical, ladies and gentlemen and viewers, that this is dealt with in a immediate way. You spoke about the athletes, and I spoke about the education aspect of it. And so it is important that in transitioning to a professional stage of your life, similarly to when you prepare yourself at college for 4 years or 3 years to enter into a profession, that transition involves persons who understand what is important in terms of your branding, your marketing, your value. Carol spoke to it. There's no definitive value. If you do a research, you don't see how and when and the amount that track and field contributes to a $700 billion industry. I was thinking about that, some information that came to me the other day, that 35 million persons watch, I think it was the Olympics in Rio, and what the 100-meter final. And who gets the marketing of that? Because there has to be some amount of marketing. Again, information was garnered earlier about the mafia aspect of the sport. Well, we need to get past that so the sport can flourish.
And with that said, Carol, should World Athletics now embrace this responsibility, or should they get outsiders to market these moves proposed by Michael?
2 things need to happen. World Athletics need to strengthen their overall marketing commission, because they do have that. And they need to look carefully at the plans for 2025 to look at a 10-year plan, 5-year plan in the short instance. Get the stars, whoever they are, in the various disciplines, select 10 or 13 events within the track and field. So you have sprints. I mean, everything up to 1,500 now is a sprint. So you have 1, 2, 4, 8, 15. Certainly one of the jumps, vertical and the other one, and a throwing event. And then you put them together in a way with good commentary. Remember when Danny Morrison started with CPL, it almost seemed like a joke. But what Danny did, Danny literally commented on the 120 balls that were bowled.
Each was an event.
Each was an event. There you go. And so we need that kind. It seems like entertainment in the first instance.
Because Danny Morrison hardly does Test cricket, does he?
No, he doesn't.
He specialises in T20.
He doesn't have time, actually.
And then we hear Ian Bishop on T20. He almost, because you're expecting this formal, you know, T20 is fun and games, but it's cricket.
Cricket is another argument, because speaking about an old boys club, they get old boys to do their commentary, and personally it's going down the drain fast. But yeah.
But track and field, get somebody from the NBA and NFL, find out, because more of our track and field athletes are playing in the NFL and vice versa. Also, the running backs are coached by track and field coaches, so there is a general understanding.
Yes.
And I think we need to start the integration, which we don't do very well.
Yeah.
I just want to add to Carol's point. Almost 300 million persons are in America. Most of the persons that I communicate with, they speak about running track, either in high school or college. So let's say 100 million persons run track, either at, what do you call it again? What's it? Lower middle school or college. What about capturing those persons? Because there are certain shoe companies that have a market, and it's not the ones that we know. For those persons who do mileage on the road, who are involved in recreational activities, then you hear on a regular basis youngsters speaking about my coach. What is it about my coach? Most times when I hear them, they talk about running track in high school.
In high school?
So we need to, right.
Yeah.
So we need to capture that market. So there's a market there, We just need to capture it.
Yeah, man.
I don't hear talking about playing basketball, I hear my coach. So when you go to these middle school meets, they talk about my coach. I have to speak to my coach. And mommy talking about her son's coach. There's a market there for those verses.
Yeah. Maurice Wilson, Carol Beckford, great having you on the SportsMax Zone discussing these Michael Johnson proposals, efforts to resuscitate track and field as a sport. And I guess the narrative here is that a lot of his recommendations not as far-fetched as many would have thought. Well, certainly not as far as our expert panel is concerned. Maurice
Somebody just sent me a message that we should start locally with MVP versus Titans versus Sprint Tech. And get that into TV rights.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Chris.
We could create a blueprint.
We could create a blueprint of our own.
You can't go wrong with the release. I'm ready.
Oh, absolutely. There you have it.
All right, Maurice, thanks for talking to us. And Carol, thanks as well for dropping in. Always welcome your expertise on the SportsMax Zone. Back with more on the show after this.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.